All right, guys, let's talk about George Santos a little bit. I want you to pay very close attention to his eyes here. Okay, let's watch.
Well, we're looking at planning town halls right now, and we're putting together some projects that we're pretty excited to engage the community in a fashion where no other member of Congress has done in the past. So we're going to be very innovative and very inclusive of the constituency.
So his eyes are wide open. Yeah, Delhi paused it there. His eyes are wide open. His eyebrows are raised. He's seems like he's very committed to what he's saying here. Very open and trying to make his point. Very genuine here. And you can see with his eyes wide open like that.
Whether you opposed me, whether you still support me, whether you now don't support me, there's going to be a place for everybody in this congressional office.
What about the voters who still feel misled, who haven't accepted your apology?
Now I want you to watch his eyes after this question, okay?
Well, I think that's hard to put a barometer
not
because the
as wide
reality
open.
is we've been served
He's still
petition
using his
of
eyebrows to go up, but you can
1,500
see
signatures, of
his
which
eyes are
almost
not
400
nearly
of
as
them were
open.
invalid or
He's smiling,
duplicate
smirking
or
a little bit.
because even Donald Trump apparently signed that petition. So it really takes
And watch
away
this. Okay, so I want you to pay attention to this. He squints like this. It's really difficult for me to. So this is a technique used by a lot of people who are very practiced, I would say, in interviewing, in talking around issues. So he wants you and he wants the interviewer to kind of put aside anything that he doesn't agree with, anything that he doesn't believe in. He just, he's going to make it very clear that that's just disgusting to him. And so he's got his squinted eyes like this, and he's talking about it clearly. I mean, Donald Trump, supposedly even Donald Trump signed it. So I just don't know what to believe. And well, and he's trying to convince you not to believe as well. And he's doing a very good job with his body language of conveying that kind of disgust or that distaste.
Validity of any concerted effort to prove a legitimate disapproval within the district when you're putting together this entire effort and then you give us a petition that's really poorly executed.
What about the 78% of voters within NY03 who have called for your resignation, expulsion?
So I didn't order any polls, and I can't discuss prudently on any polls.
So he's nicely sidestepping the question here. He's not answering her question. What he's saying is, those are not my polls. That's not information that I ordered. So I can't comment on that information.
Don't know what
From Newsday in Siena.
Again, Newsday.
And again, you see him squinting his eyes and making his point that this is just, he just can't even fathom how anyone would think about those.
They ordered their poll. They had their parameters, so I wasn't privy to it, so I can't really comment on a poll that I have no idea how it was commissioned.
Okay, and now what about the missing money?
I'm sorry, which missing money?
The $365,000.
So he's had so many interviews up to this point, and she's asking about the missing money, and rather than this is a good tactic too, for somebody who's trying to play themselves off as innocent, but you have to be careful with this. So he says, I'm sorry, what missing money? Well, having been his 18th interview or whatever since all of this came out, he knows what the missing money is, but he is using this to listen and formulate his response.
Is that a new thing? I've never heard that figure.
Came
before.
out earlier this week, or the $705,000. I mean, pick your figure. What do you have to say to people?
I don't know about any missing money.
Or the $705,000.
Well, $705,000 were personal loans made from me to the campaign.
Okay, so now he says, I don't know anything about any missing money. Of course he does, because when she mentions the $705,000, well, that's not. He's blowing that off, right? But again, look at his eyes here. In the beginning, when he was being sincere, saying, look, we're going to have a town hall meeting. We're going to invite everybody, whether you like me, whether you don't like me. We're going to, very sincere. And now he's very aggressive, right? And you can see that his posture is more stiff. His movements are jerkier, and his eyes are focused or more narrow. It's very subtle, but it's good to be able to see how he's changing in the interview where he feels on the defensive and he has to defend himself.
Where did it come from?
From my personal finances.
It was your money.
My money, 100% legitimate.
So again, at the beginning, she asks him one question, and he talks for another thing here. He talks for, quite a while. He expounds on what he's doing. He's opened up about it. She asks here, "What about the $705,000?" And he says, "It was my money." That's it. He doesn't expound. He doesn't offer any type of explanation right off the bat. She has to continue to pry that information out of him. Now, for me as an interviewer, when somebody goes to being completely open and telling a lot of information and giving, huge narrative answers, and then you ask a question and they say, that was my own. And that was it. They don't offer any other explanation. That's clearly an area where you're going to want to press a little bit more. Now, obviously, this interviewer doesn't have much time, but that's an area where you're going to want to take a look even closer.
My money originated from my business practices, so I continue to not understand why there's this enormous inquisition and inquiry into my business practices and the legitimacy of it. I've operated honestly and with no.
Will you show people?
Sure. I mean, I've made it very clear if the ethics committee comes looking.
What about me? I'd love to see.
Sure. Maybe we can do that on an off-the-record setting, and I have no problem opening the books to you.
What about the $199.99? Nancy Marks. I know you're no longer with her. She's no longer your treasurer. What kind of person? What kind of relationship did you have with her?
So I can't speak for what the fiduciary and the campaign did or didn't do if there were.
All right. So basically what I wanted to highlight there was, the beginning of the interview where he is trying to promote himself, and he's very open and he's very genuine about what he's doing. And when he starts to answer questions, now granted, anybody who feels like they're being attacked is going to start to close off a little bit, get more stiff, things like that. But just the shortness of his answers, it seems like there's something going on there. Now, we know he to my knowledge, George Santos still has not, admitted to any type of guilt, but he did get censured and eventually resigned from Congress, which is not something common for an innocent person to do. Again, I don't have any definitive proof that something went on there, but the change in his answers when he gets to the defensive parts where he's defending himself are quite indicative of something more going on there. So just a little something to look at there when you're interviewing.